afternoon, y'all. We got a little treat for our active song this afternoon. Hope you guys had a great day. Get ready to move. Get ready to use all your body parts for this song. We're going to be Joe in a button factory. And in the button factory, Joe has to push buttons. So he can push buttons with one hand, the other hand, with a foot, and the other foot. And what else could he push a button with? Maybe his nose or his head? Let's try it out. It goes like this. Hello, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory. I've got a wife and a kid and a family. One day, my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, Joe, are you busy?" I said, "No." He said, "Push this button with your right hand." Okay, push it. Hello, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory. I got a wife and a dog and a family. One day, my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, Joe, are you busy?" I said, "No." He said, "Push this button with your left hand." You got to keep pushing. Don't stop pushing. Hello, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory. I got a wife and a dog and a family. One day, my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, Joe, are you busy?" I said, "No." He said, "Push this button with your foot." You gotta push it with your foot. You might have to be sitting on your bottom to do it. Hello, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory. I got a wife and a cat and a family. One day, my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, Joe, are you busy?" I said, "No." He said, "Push the button with your other foot." Oh boy. Hello, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory. I got a wife and a dog and a family. One day, my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, Joe, are you busy?" I said, "No." He said, "Push this button with your head." Do it all, do everything. Hello, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory. I got a wife and a cat and a family. One day, my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, Joe, are you busy?" I said, "Yes!" I don't know if we could have pushed any more buttons after that. And that's what your parents mean by pushing their buttons. Okay. Ooh, let's do a little, I have a song about Pussy Willow. I'll show you a picture of a Pussy Willow. It's in the book we're going to read today. These are Pussy Willows. There's branches of trees that look like sticks, and they have cute little furry flowers on them. Furry. It's like the jackets of the flowers. It's like a fur coat. And people call them pussy willows. Hey, didn't you guys go on a hunt for pussy willows today? For spring? Finding things, spring things? Anyway, a pussy is also a name for a cat. A pussy cat. So, here it is. I know a little pussy, her coat is silver gray. She lives down in the meadow, not very far away. Although she is a pussy, she'll never be a cat, for she's a pussy willow. What do you think of that? Meow, meow. Okay, I'm going to read the Pussy Willow book. Pussy Willow by Margaret Wise Brown. Oh, there's when Pussy Willow was just a teeny kitten. And there's Pussy Willow again. Teeny kitten cat. Once there was a little pussy cat, not much bigger than a pussy willow. There's the Pussy Willows. He was just as soft and gray and furry as those little flowers clinging to the branches above him in the early spring. So he named himself Pussy Willow. It was a wild green world that he was born into. A forest of wild flowers grew above him. Some things were bigger than he was, and some things were smaller than he was, and he wondered at such things. Suddenly, a bug jumped out of that wild green world and up to him. "Where are you good to bite?" asked the bug. "Oh, nowhere and not at all," said Pussy Willow, and he rolled the bug back into the grass with his soft fur paw. Bright moonlight nights came in the sky. The peepers were peeping. That means the frogs. And the tender buds and roots of wildflowers were a gentle smell in the warm night air. A little peeper popped out of his pond. "How do you know it's spring?" I don't," said Pussy Willow. "I don't know." "When the groundhog casts a shadow, and the small birds sing, and the pussy willow happens, and the sun shines warm, and when the peepers peep, then it is spring." And splash, he was gone. A deer mouse came softly out of the forest and tickled Pussy Willow's on the nose. "Look at that, he's no bigger than a mouse." "How odd," she said. "A cat, not much bigger than a mouse." "Little fat shadow," said the mouse, "come home with me and live in my house." "Achoo! I'm not a shadow. Shadows don't sneeze. Achoo!" Pussy Willow gave such a big sneeze that it blew the mouse over. Time passed, hours, minutes, and nights and days, and Pussy Willow grew fur. Green wild strawberries bloomed. There's the strawberries. Green grasshoppers hopped all over. Suddenly, Pussy Willow looked up. The Pussy Willows were gone. What? Yellow long things and green little leaves were hung from where the Pussy Willows were. Where had they gone? He went to go look for them. So off he went through the moonlight and the starlight and thunder and lightning. Well, he's getting all rained on, looking for his Pussy Willows. He searched through the day and the night and the wind and the rain. Oh boy, I hope he finds them. Spring passed, and along came the first butterfly, bumped bang into Pussy Willow with a soft bang. Out of my way, said the butterfly. Who are you and what are you looking for? Pussy Willow sat squarely on his tails. Pussy Willows, he said. Did you ever see any gray fur flowers that look just like me? Up in the air, said the butterfly. Anything that anyone would look for is up in the air. So Pussy Willow went up in the air. He climbed a tree and fell asleep in a bird's nest. The birds came home and found him warm and purring next to their eggs, so they sat on him too to keep him warm. Little friendly birds came out of the eggs and grew up and learned to fly. Everything that anyone would ever look for is up in the sky, they sang and flew up. Pussy Willow climbed all around the treetops, but he never learned to fly. Do you know why? Yeah, he doesn't have wings. One day a bee flew by. Zzz, who are you and where shall I sting you? Oh, please don't, said Pussy Willow, but tell me, did you ever see any gray fur flowers that look just like me? Sassafras, buzzed the bee. Look in the garden. So Pussy Willow climbed down into the garden, and there he found cabbages and roses and scarecrows and poppies and pink tiger lilies, but no Pussy Willows. He went up to the big fat cabbage. Did you ever see any little gray fur flowers that look just like me? But the cabbage just sat there in its great green silence and never said a word. Why didn't it say a word? It doesn't have a mouth. Up popped a mole. Anything that anyone would look for is always in a hole. In a carrot, said the rabbit. In the garden, buzzed the bee. In a smell, sniffed the skunk, and the woodpecker pecked at a tree. Boy, everyone had an opinion of where he should look. Pussy Willow hunted through moonlight and sunlight and down by the sea. There he met an old hermit crab. The hermit crab came snapping out of its shell, waving its claws. Said the hermit crab, why do you walk by the sea? Tch, said Pussy Willow, I walk where I please, but did you ever see any little gray fur flowers that look just like me? bush, snapped the crab. I see that you are a pussycat, and the beach is no place for pussycats, and the sea is full of fish. And if you are looking for flowers, all the beautiful ones are in the sea. The hermit crab snapped back into his shell and scuttled off sideways into the deep green water. Do you think Pussy Willow's going to find the pussy willows in the sea? No. So Pussy Willow wandered through the purple asters and the goldenrod and pearly everlasting, through blueberries and blackberries and raspberries. Wait a second. These are all things that only bloom in the fall. The wind began to blow, the leaves turned red and fell from the trees. Nuts fell on Pussy Willow's head, and apples dropped about him with a loud and sudden pop. He met a red squirrel hiding acorns. Yep, I think it is fall. Are you a nut? Asked the red squirrel. What do you think? Said Pussy Willow. Did you ever see a nut with whiskers and pointed ears and a switching tail? I'm a cat looking for pussy willows. Did you ever see any little soft gray fur flowers that look just like me? Go look under the leaves, said the squirrel. Everything that anyone would look for is always under the leaves. The air grew colder. Snow fell. Pussy Willow hunted through snowstorms and black branches across the shining ice until at last he fell asleep, a very tired pussycat, under a thin branch bush. He took a little cat nap. And while he was asleep, something began to happen on the branches high above him. Winter was melting away. The sun was shining warm. He dreamed that there was soft purring in the air around him. The groundhog came out of the ground, and when he saw a little cat in his shadow, bump, he said, "Excuse me, get out of my shadow." And that woke up Pussy Willow. All the birds began to sing. Ooh, they started coming back from where they were during the winter. The peepers in the pond began to peep. That's the frogs. It was spring. And when Pussy Willow uncurled himself, there were his pussy willows. For he had fallen asleep under a pussy willow bush, and it burst into bloom above him. Whoa. Everything that anyone would ever look for is usually where he left it, hooted the owl. On a bush, sang the robin. In the sky, sang the lark. In a song, in the spring, in the dark. Then up popped Pussy Willow. Everything that anyone would ever look for is usually where they find it, purred Pussy Willow. He found his pussy willows. I'm so glad. It had to be springtime. That's why. They were gone in the summer, and they only happen in the spring. And it's springtime. I hope you guys find some. All right, guys. Have a lovely evening and a beautiful night, and I will see you later when everything's right. See ya.